In Beauty and the Beast, we have Belle going over to the mansion and she has to fall in love with the beast in his beastly form. And it's almost the same thing here. She, Pharaoh, had to go to Spring Court and fall in love with Tamlin. This is one from Sarah J. Maas titled A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now, this book has been flying off shelves for some reason. It's so on demand. I do like fantasy novels, but I really wasn't looking to read this book when it just kind of fell into my hands. I actually went shopping and I didn't find what I was looking for, so I decided to pick this one up. And I can say it wasn't a bad read. So rumor has it this book is inspired by Beauty and the Beast, so it's a typical case of the lady in rags saving the knight. In this case, it is the lady in rags saving the lord in leather baldric. Now, let's get right into the plot of this particular book here. Now, this book is centered around Feyre. She is the protagonist of this book, and she lives in a world where fairies and humans cohabit, and they have this wall that has been erected to keep the fairies and humans away from each other, because in the past fairies enslaved humans and it was so bad the humans had to fight themselves out of slavery. And so over the years the humans have been teaching their children to hate fairies. I mean, who can blame them, right? And so our dear protagonist Feyre decides to go hunting, not minding the rumors that have been circulating that fairies have been found in the human world disguised as wolves. But being this young lady who's got this lust for danger and death, Feyre goes hunting deep in the heart of the forest during the winter season. And it so happens she sights a wolf and kills the wolf. She doesn't care if it is a fairy or a real wolf. If it is a fairy, well, that's one less fairy than good for the human world, right? And of course, there is a repercussion for that. She has to pick between death or exile, and she picks exile. And so she's taken away to the fairyland called Prython. Now, the fairy world, Prython, is divided into courts. So you've got spring court, autumn court, summer court, winter court, dawn, night, and day court. And there is Hybern, an island, also in Prython. And she's whisked off to the spring court where she stays with her captive. But she is not treated as a captive or a slave. She's free to come and go. And trust Feyre to be really stubborn. She puts herself in danger, and her captor, who is not really a captor per se, Tamlin, saves her. And then they begin to catch feelings for each other. So if you're one who's into the whole enemies to lovers trope, then this is just the book for you, because it's a typical enemies to lovers trope going on here. Now, what happens is, while they're catching feelings for each other, Tamlin sends her back to the human world to save her from the curse that is rippling and destroying his cult. But Miss Obstinate decides to find her way back in the summer court. She finds her way back to Prython, only to get there and hear that Tamlin has been abducted by the queen, she who must not be mentioned. And she goes on this adventure to save the man she loves. And the book really takes up from there. I mean, it is so interesting. Now, this particular book has got some really interesting characters. First off, we've got Feyre. She is a 19-year-old huntress who is desperately loyal to her family. She's got this dying need or this desire to be all and all for her family. And so she deals with a lot of insecurity, which is normal for a 19-year-old girl, right? But it was worsened by her elder sister, who just keeps throwing all her shortcomings at her. And that really plays a role in her kind of character. And then there's Tamlin, who is the hero of the book. But Tamlin is a bit bland to me. He doesn't come out exciting for the love interest of a protagonist. Now, at first we meet him, he seems like this shy and socially awkward person, but as the book progresses, you get to realize Tamlin is just this reserved, quiet type, and he's really powerful. And now, High Lords of the Fairy Kingdom have powers, and Tamlin's power is shape shifting and glamour. And then there's Lucian. Lucian is Tamlin's best friend and emissary. And Lucian is like the comic relief of the book. He is loyal and perceptive. He is scarred, but he's very charismatic. And then finally, one of the other major characters I have to mention here is Rhysand. Rhysand doesn't come into the novel. He's not introduced until pretty much halfway into the novel we get to meet Rhysand. And Feyre describes him as the most beautiful man she's ever seen. He's described as having pale skin and dark hair and just sensual and graceful. Whereas Tamlin is powerful with golden hair, tan skin, green eyes. And so, yeah, those are the major characters in the book. Now, as far as this book goes, I like the use of literary devices. She really uses some really good literary devices. One of them is imagery. Now, at the beginning of the book, we see Feyre going into the forest. And the forest, of course, kind of defines Feyre, because at the point where we meet her or where we're introduced to her, she is uncultivated like the forest. She is wild. There's just something wild about her. And she's going through this labyrinth, and labyrinth can be confusing to maneuver. And that at that point in her life, she's going through this confusing state in her life. And just like the forest that is covered in snow, she's got this cold heart. And she's on a slippery path as far as her life is concerned. So that's my take on the use of imagery. I really like that. And then as you read the book further, when we get into the spring court, spring, of course, is the beginning of a new season where the leaves are growing, flowers are blooming, the animals are getting more excited and coming out of their hiding. So for Feyre to go from the winter covered human world into the spring court is like new beginnings for her. It just signifies new beginnings and hope and beauty and a lot of good things to come. We're hoping for a lot of good things to come for Feyre. And what else can we say about imagery? The writer uses a lot of vividly descriptive words when she's talking about the spring court, and you will see the images come to play when you read the book. And I like that, especially the way she uses colors, how she describes the flowers and all of those things. They just add to the book. And then there's also the use of foreshadowing. I'm not going to go into it because there's no way I'm going to talk about foreshadowing without spoiling something. And I don't want to give off too much. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And let's say the paintings too. That was another part of the imagery that was played with, because Feyre, for one, is able to tell a lot about Prython through the paintings. She learns so much about it. So yeah, let's move on. Now, this book is told in the first person limited point of view. Yeah, because everything we see or hear or feel is from Feyre's point of view only. We don't get to know why other people are doing what they do or why they feel the way they feel. No, it's just all from Feyre's perspective. That said, I will say there were a few vexatious things about this book. Number one, the beginning. It was so long, drawn out. Oh, believe it or not, it took me 5 days. I kid you not. Maybe it was more, but 5 days just to get to read chapter 1. Yes, it was just so long drawn out. The way she went on describing and describing. I mean, the overt description was just, if you get my meaning, it was too much. So yeah, that was one of the things. And I do not like how the book ended. I wish there was a different ending, but it is what it is, I guess. That said, I really liked a lot of other things about the book that just made the quality of the book resound with me. I mean, it's been a while a book kept me up all night, and this book kept me up all night. I haven't had a book do that to me. I mean, I picked it up at 9 a.m. and until 3 a.m. I was still reading. I had to remind myself that I was going to be in church that morning at 8 a.m. So I had to put it down. That said, how she incorporates riddles and paintings and poetry into this book just adds a really artsy flair to it and a quirkiness that I found really exciting for me. I would rate this book a 3.5 star, not more than that, because like I said, it was long drawn out at the beginning. It gets really exciting when Feyre goes looking for her lover, but I wouldn't say it's more than a 3.5 book. I just feel the over description really did spoil it for me. But I did like the balance in the book. There was this right amount of romance, the right amount of violence, the right amount of darkness. All of that was incorporated into the book, and it was just so well balanced. And I'm going to say this book, it's a young adult book. I will recommend this book for anyone who loves fantasy novels, especially if you liked Breaking Dawn. You will find this book worth your time. That's for sure. Now, I'd just like to talk about the similarities between this book, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Beauty and the Beast. In Beauty and the Beast, we have Belle going over to the mansion, and she has to fall in love with the Beast in his beastly form. And it's almost the same thing here. She, Feyre, had to go to Spring Court and fall in love with Tamlin, despite not being able to see his face because they had this mask on that was part of the curse. Someone had to fall in love with him without knowing what he truly looked like. And then there's the part where the Beast takes Beauty to the library and shows her all those books, and she's like enamored. Yeah, that happened here too when he took her to the gallery, and for the first time we saw Feyre actually show some emotion and some consciousness, and it was beautiful to see that part of Feyre which had been missing pretty much throughout the book until that particular part. And it was after that Feyre really started blooming. And then there is the part where Mrs. Potts is this motherly, chubby, bubbly person that just keeps Belle feeling good about herself despite being imprisoned. And here we have Alice, who is also plump and motherly. So yeah, those are the similarities. And of course, Belle eventually saves the Beast, not without some violence. And here, Feyre saves the Beast, but this time, Feyre is the one doing more of the fighting. But did it end good for Feyre? You have to read to find out for yourself, so I'm not going to go beyond that. So that's that on this book. So I hope you've enjoyed the gist on A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So if you've enjoyed the gist of this book, don't forget to press that like button and do me a favor and share this video with book lovers out there. And if you're yet to subscribe, hey, don't hesitate to subscribe. You will be doing this platform a world of good for us book lovers out there who are yet to know about this channel. Thank you very much for liking, subscribing, and sharing. All right, right now, just press that like button. Thank you very much. Now, until I come your way again soon, do stay blessed, do stay reading, and do stay winning. Ciao.